Hey, what's up, guys? You're now listening to Devo with Uncle Theo. Today is day 146, and we're going to cover 2nd Chronicles, chapters 17 through 20. So last time we left off, we learned our lesson about Asa. Asa teaches us a lot of lessons. He started off well, but Chronicles reveals something to us that we didn't know about. In Kings, it shows that his heart left Yahweh, and even at the end of his life, his trust was in his physicians more than God himself. But today in verse 17, we pick up with Asa's son, Jehoshaphat. This is chapter 17, verse 1. Jehoshaphat, his son, then became king in his place and made his position over Israel firm. He placed troops in all the fortified cities of Judah and set garrisons in the land of Judah and in the cities of Ephraim, which Asa, his father, had captured. The Lord was with Jehoshaphat, because he followed the example of his father David's earlier days and did not seek the Baals, but sought the God of his father, followed his commandments, and did not act as Israel did. So the Lord established the kingdom in his control, and all Judah brought tribute to Jehoshaphat, and he had great riches and honor. He took great pride in the ways of the Lord and removed the high places and the Ashrim from Judah. And this is very interesting in verse 7. In the 3rd year of his reign, he sends his officials and priests to teach Judah the book of the law of the Lord with them. And they went throughout all the cities of Judah and taught among the people. And so the Lord is with Jehoshaphat. It says in verse 10 that the dread of the Lord was on all the kingdoms of the land which were around Judah, so that they did not make war against Jehoshaphat. And so the chronicler is going to give a lot of attention to Jehoshaphat. And a part of this is because of what we talked about before, the Umrah conspiracy, and how he yokes himself up with the northern kingdom. And obviously we see that in chapter 18. In verse 1 it says, "Now Jehoshaphat had great riches and honor, and he aligned himself by marriage with Ahab. And some years later he went down to visit Ahab in Samaria, and Ahab slaughtered many sheep and oxen for him and the people who were with him, induced him. Ahab, the king of Israel, said to Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, 'Will you go with me against Ramoth Gilead?' And he said to him, 'I am as you are, and my people as your people, and we will be with you in battle.'" And so you remember this story. We covered this in Kings of how the northern and the southern king start to collide and combine. And this is deemed by theologians as the Umrah conspiracy, something that Ahab's father put in place. Listen, if you can't beat him, join him. And it finds its fulfillment when the daughter of Ahab and Jezebel, Athaliah, marries the son of Jehoshaphat. And she tries to take out the entire royal line, and she gets everybody except Joash. But here we see in chapter 18, Ahab is asking Jehoshaphat to go up with him for battle. And Jehoshaphat says, "Of course I will. I'm one with you." But he says, "Let's seek the prophet to see if the Lord will give us success." And so all of the prophets were prophesying, saying, "The Lord will give you success and give this battle into your hands." And so all of these false prophets assure victory, saying that it's going to be okay. But then they go to the prophet McCalley, and Ahab doesn't want to use him because he says, "Look, he never gives me any good prophecies." And so he prophesies initially. He says, "Look, as the Lord lives, go up and you'll succeed. Everything will be all right." And the king says to him, "How many times must I adjure you to speak to me nothing but the truth in the name of the Lord?" So then Micaiah says, "I saw all of Israel scattered on the mountains like sheep which have no shepherd. And the Lord said, these have no master. Let each of them return to his house in peace." And then this is when the king of Israel says, "See, I told you, he never prophesies any good concerning me, only evil." And Micaiah says, "Therefore hear the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting on his throne, and all the host of heaven standing on his right and on his left. The Lord said, who will entice Ahab, king of Israel, to go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead?" And one said this while another said that. Then a spirit came forth and stood before the Lord and said, "I will entice him." And the Lord said to him, "How?" He said, "I will go and be a deceiving spirit in the mouth of all his prophets." Then he said, you are to entice him and prevail also. Go and do. Now, therefore, the Lord has put a deceiving spirit in the mouth of these your prophets, and the Lord has proclaimed disaster against you. And this is what we talked about, how things operate with our King, God, behind the veil, behind the curtains. And you get a glimpse of this a lot in Job, where Satan has access to heaven. He can go petition God in heaven. And you see here, demons are debating over who will go and will entice the king. And they're bringing it before God. And he's saying, go ahead, do what you're going to do. And so we see God superintending both good and evil. But here's the complexity of it. He has to do it in a way where he's not a culprit, where he's not a sinner. And that's why I love the word superintend, because if you're superintending something, you're above it. You're not in it. You're allowing it to happen, but you're in control of it and even the cause of it, but you're not what's called the chargeable cause. And his purposes are being accomplished without him being the chargeable cause. And remember, we have the story where Ahab goes into battle and he disguises himself, and a man shoots an arrow in the sky at random, strikes him perfectly and kills him. It moves us into chapter 19. It says, Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, returned in safely to his house in Jerusalem. Jehu, the son of Hanani the seer, went out to meet him and said to King Jehoshaphat, should you help the wicked and love those who hate the Lord, and so bring wrath on yourself from the Lord? But there is some good in you, for you have removed the Ashtoreth from the land, and you have set your heart to seek the Lord. So Jehoshaphat lived in Jerusalem and went out again amongst the people from Beersheba to the hill country of Ephraim, and brought them back to the Lord, the God of their fathers. So you see, after this rebuke from Jehu, there are some reforms put in place by Jehoshaphat. He establishes some spiritual order. He puts judges in place in verse 5. He makes all accountable to God in verse 6. In verse 7, it says, now then, let the fear of the Lord be upon you, and be very careful what you do. For the Lord our God will have no part in unrighteousness or partiality or the taking of a bribe. And so he has them operating in integrity and honesty and loyalty. And remember what we learned from our other kings. Rehoboam forsakes God and is disloyal, so God abandons him. And Abijah is loyal. And when the northern kingdom attacks them, even though the northern kingdom was more developed, Abijah wins because of his loyalty. If you're loyal to God, God will be loyal to you. And Jehoshaphat is operating in that. And we end in chapter 20, where the sons of Moab and the sons of Ammon came together to make war against Jehoshaphat. And when they reported it to him that a great multitude was coming to him beyond the sea, it says, so Judah gathered together to seek help from the Lord. They even came from all the cities of Judah to seek the Lord. And Jehoshaphat prays. It says, Jehoshaphat stood in the assembly of Judah and Jerusalem in the house of the Lord before the new court. And he said, O Lord, the God of our fathers, are you not God in the heavens? And are you not ruler over the kingdoms of the nations? Power and might are in your hand, so that no one can stand against you. Did not you, O our God, drive out the inhabitants of this land before your people Israel and give it to the descendants of Abraham, your friend forever? What is he calling on? History. Remember why we're staying in the Old Testament, because the best theologians know their history. But listen to this part. The best prayer warriors know their history. So Jehoshaphat prays, and the Spirit of the Lord comes on a man by the name of Jehaziel, and he tells him one of the most famous verses that we love to hear. Do not be afraid or discouraged because of this vast army, for the battle is not yours, but who? It's the Lord's. It's God, because God will fight for us. You will not have to fight this battle. Take up your position, stand firm, and see the deliverance that the Lord will give you. Judah and Jerusalem, do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. Go out to face them tomorrow, and the Lord will be with you. And he is. The enemies just destroy themselves. to what happened, remember in Judges with Gideon? God causes their enemies to go into confusion and turn on each other and just start slaughtering one another. And Jehoshaphat has triumph. You see some good with Jehoshaphat, but how do we close this out? What's one thing we learn about Jehoshaphat? That God abhors mixing. He is the first king in the southern kingdom to mix up with the northern kingdom under this Umride conspiracy. Remember the plan, just like Balaam. If you can't beat him, join him. But when he doesn't mix, he's delivered. But when he mixes, he's almost destroyed. You get one simple lesson. Don't mix. And who's our enemy here today? It's Satan, it's his system, and it's the world. And does that mean we're to get out of the world? It's true that we're to be separate in a way, but we are also to be in the world, but not of it. And sure, we can be nice and friendly, but we cannot mix with the world. They cannot have our allegiance. And so I ask you today, where does your loyalty lie? Do not mix with those who are enemies of God. Friendship with the world is what? Enmity towards God. You see why now? Because you're trying to be friendly and nice, and Satan may be using you to destroy the line of the seed. Jehoshaphat could have been being nice and just trying to abide by the can we all just get along policy. And Satan is using it to raise up at the lie to destroy the Davidic line. And this is why we just obey God, because something really evil, more evil and demonic than you can ever think or imagine, could be going on behind the scenes. Learn this from Jehoshaphat. Do not mix with the world. May your allegiance and your loyalty lie with God, so that his loyalty and allegiance may lie with you. You guys take care. Catch you next time.
Yeah.